Hello friends, I'm Larry with Rides Done Right, and I'm at the Salem Roadster Show. My guest right now is Jason Clifford. Jason, nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you.
So Jason is a master craftsman, and we're going to take a look at some of what work I can't even compare it to, other than you have to put this on scale with some of the best creative bike stuff I've ever seen. So if you've seen the stuff on shows on TV and stuff, boy, let's take it to another level, and that's really what this bike was. You know, Jason, this came out of your first build. You basically started getting comments, and why don't you tell me a little bit about what happened? You did your first build, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'll show you.
Yeah, my first build, a lot of the people were thinking that I was buying all my parts, and so I decided that it would be a good idea to make something that they knew there were no parts bought. I just made everything, other than the stuff like the common parts that you can't make, like the brake calipers and the wheels and stuff like that. But pretty much, just about everything on my bikes is handmade by me, and just whatever comes out of my mind.
Well, one of the things, and we're going to be all over this bike, but let's just start with one thing that right off the bat stands out to me, and that's the intake system. I really like how you hand formed the tubes, brought it all on top of the gas tank with the filters. That's pretty cool. What was how did that come about?
I don't know really how they come about. I don't know. I just come up with something and just whatever.
Was this an art kind of thing though? I mean, to put them up there, you had to have had thought right off the bat, hey, you don't usually put your air intake on the top of the gas tank. So that basically was your first thought, is I'll twin them out, put them on the top. Then it's just a matter of running the stuff.
Yeah. This bike, I don't know really where to tell you that any of the ideas came from, other than I don't know. It's just a weird. I mean, it's just what it is.
You'll sit down then in the garage, I'm assuming, and with your parts and start putting stuff up and just kind of getting an idea, and then all of a sudden, once you've got the idea, you go into create mode or build mode.
Yeah, I have a drawing that a guy gave me that was a pan head, and it had all the original dimensions that were needed to be used to fit a pan head in a bike with a transmission. So what I'll usually do is it's a full-size paper cutout blueprint. So I cut it out, and then I set on some butcher paper, and then I'll, just draw whatever frame I want. And in this case, I wanted to make it all out of plate, and I wanted it to kind of have a chain link look. But I wanted this bike to be really super industrial and almost like just stupid that you would ride something like this. Completely stupid. You're going to die, but you're going to kill whatever else you hit. So you're getting one for one.
I love how you executed the curved blade things with the tank. That turned out really neat. Did you first then do the tank and then decide you wanted to add to those fins, or did you again draw this out ahead of time?
No, I can't draw. Number one, I can't draw a stick figure with clothes on. It just happens. The fender was originally going to be straight. I had cut about 3 more pieces, and I was just going to have them straight. And they were sitting there, and they accidentally fell over. A couple of them fell off, and a couple of them fell over, and they fell over into more of this design. And I'm like, oh, I really like that, so we went with that. But I mean, there's parts that I threw away that I didn't like. Some of the, I don't know what to tell you. It's just weird.
On your seat, normally you're going to get, you've got the shape style that you would have in a normal bobber, but then obviously you went with individual slides like that, and you had me sit on the bike just to experience it, and it feels just like a normal seat.
Yeah.
I'm sure it rides nice.
It does. This gets to be a little bit miserable, but you just put a leather thing over it, and it has straps that holds it on there. I just don't have it on there because I want people to see the work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it looks great.
If I put that on there, then it would be a detail that you would miss.
One of the things that you had said about the bobber seat as well is that it's adjustable, that you made it where you could actually adjust it from there.
Yeah, the way that the bike is built is off of these link systems. So they've got shaft locks that shaft locked everything. You can take the shafts off The shaft locks off. You can move the tank forward if you want. You can move it back. You can move the seat up. You can move the seat down. You can adjust the front end however you want. If you're putting a lot more weight on it, you can just move. The front end's made out of handyman jacks, so every hole's in exactly the same spot.
And
so
one of the things that we noticed is that all the stuff that you worked is very industrial. I mean, it's really put together. So the concept that the frame wouldn't be strong enough to handle what it is you're doing, it's plenty strong enough.
This thing's no. You can sit on this, and you'd swear that your clock was running slower because it's got so much mass. You'd think it's pulling the time out of your clock. It's gonna kill, and it's gonna kill anything it hits.
You joked about the weight of the bike, and which is
it's a 750-pound bike, and my Harley weighs about 850.
Well, and it has that low center of gravity. So when you lift it up like that, it seemed absolutely fine. And by the way, that extra weight probably makes the thing drive down the road really nice. I mean, it just stays in there.
Yeah, it doesn't jump around or nothing. No, it's a fun bike to ride. I can let you ride this bike even if you don't have any money. And when you come back, you've stolen it from somebody, you're going to buy it. It's really fun to ride.
I can attest to that.
I've let a couple guys ride it, and they're just like, man, this thing is badass.
I liked also that you put the second set of pegs on it.
The mid controls.
Yeah, knowing that if you're going to go out and ride the thing for any amount of time at all, you want to be able to get a little relief there. So that was great.
Yeah, it really changes the ride of a bike to have mid controls on it. Well, it's like the other bike that we're going to look at. You'll see why it's so much nicer to be able to have your legs right beside you instead of stretched way out. It's really you got to know how to make the pegs and stuff. You have to make the pegs right, or your feet are going to try to slip off, and you got to think a bunch of stupid little things out to try to make them comfortable to ride.
You have the lines that run across the top of the tank and then down to the back in these really cool decorative things. Is there functionality? What do the lines do?
Those are the vent caps, the vents for the gas tanks, and that's not how you do it. And so that's exactly why I do it like that. That
would be the best reason of this bike to do it. Let's talk about the exhaust end. So rather than just running straight pipes out, which a lot of guys do, you actually put it in a container-looking thing that then sends it sideways.
Yeah.
So what?
I wanted the swing arm to look like a piece of I-beam. So that's why it looks that way. And then once I got the I-beam all set, I really wanted to have something that took that same. It's hard to see with the camera on the other side, but I wanted to fill those gaps equally all the way around with an exhaust piece. Mm-hmm. And I had an old piece of crusher screen that was hanging out, and so I grabbed that and threw that in there. And actually, because of this exhaust system, I actually need to put bolts. I need to weld bolts in it to try to break the gas, because the gases get trapped in that little thing, and it kind of makes it run crampy. But you can still ride it, but it doesn't run as crisp and pristine as it should.
Well, you've got a lot of details in your signals, I noticed too. I mean, boy, you didn't phone those in. Each one of them, it seems like part of that trick would have been getting them symmetrical when you put them all together, because they all look like they were made out of the same set. Did you cut each of the pieces individual? And then
yeah,
put them together,
this one's bigger. That one's bigger than the other ones, which you don't really notice. But I had a friend that bought a CNC plasma machine, and he didn't know how to use it. So I knew I could get my parts cut really cheap because it was going to take him a long time to program it. So I had him program this stupid idea, and then I got that all done for free. And then I made a jig that holds the light in the right spot, and then you just kind of TIG weld around. They're really a pain in the ass to make. I don't recommend anybody make anything like the way I make it, because it's really miserable.
Let's talk about that front end, because you have got a lot of detail in the front end as well. How you ran the brakes and mounted all of that, I mean, again, the same kind of...
The other thing about that front end that's bizarre is that it's a Springer front end, but the springs are separated. They're not on top of each other like on normal front ends. One set of springs is down below and one set of springs up above. And they're actuated by solid steel 1-inch brass rods that are inside those front runners that you can't see. I should have made those holes bigger so that you could see that piece of brass. But there's details in there that most people aren't noticing, like that all the apparatus is set on copper blocks instead of like steel, which is smarter to do. But I like the look of copper and brass, and I like to take the aluminum and the copper and the brass and put it all together, you know, kind of show off the details of the metal.
Well, sticking to your theme, you sure didn't phone it in on your handles either. Those weren't order handles. You actually made those handles.
Oh,
then
the
as
handlebars,
well.
yeah.
No, the handles themselves. The
levers.
The
the levers, yeah.
And I love how you did the extensions on them that go to the reservoirs. Normally the reservoir sits right beside the handle,
Right.
and that was cool to see that linkage in there.
Yeah, it's real linkagey. And then where they're split, you know, where that bolt goes through, even though it doesn't really even need to be in there if you didn't want it in there, I put little copper tubes around there, and then when that's all polished out, you got the aluminum and you got the copper in between it, and they're made out of bicycle sprockets and a piece of aluminum that I've been on a jig on a press.
Well, this thing has details out the wazoo, and my prediction is that you are going to be around a while, so I really appreciate the interview. Thanks so much, Jason.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
We'll catch you guys next time.